भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Verse 17 and 18. भौतिकानां च भावनां शक्तिरासं च तत्कृतम् अश्रद्धानान्नेह सत्त्वान् दुर्मेधान् ऋषितायुषः दुर्भगांश जन्नान् वीक्ष्य मुनिर्दिव्येन चक्षुषा सर्ववर्णाश्रमाणां यद्दध्यो हितं मोघदृक्.
Hare Krishna, sorry, Batan, sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The translation by Srila Prabhupada, the great sage who was fully equipped in knowledge could see through his transcendental vision the deterioration of everything material due to the influence of the age. He could also see that the faithless people, oh, sorry, the screen is disappeared, okay. Faithless people in general would be reduced in duration of life and would be impatient due to lack of goodness. Thus be contemplated for the welfare of a man in all status and orders of life. Haivo.
Verse 19. Chaturhotram karma shuddham prajanam vikshya vaidikam vyadadhadyajna santatyaye vedam ekam chaturvidham.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which the people's occupations could be purified. And to simplify the process, he divided the one Veda into four in order to explain them among men.
Verse 20. Rugyajuhu samatharvakya vedaschatvar udhrataha itihasa puranam cha panchamo veda uchyate.
Translation by Shabbat. The four divisions of the original sources of knowledge, the Vedas, were made separately, but the historical facts and the authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the fifth Veda.
Verse 21. Tatra Rigvedadaraha Pailaha Samago Jaiminihi Kavihi Vaishampayan Evaiko Nishnato Yajushamat.
Yeah. Sorry, Mataji, you just moved forward so much. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Hare Krishna. After the Vedas were divided into four divisions, Pala Rasi became the professor of the Rigveda. Jaimini, the professor of the Samaveda, and Vaishampayana, I think Vaishampayana alone become glorified by the Yajurveda.
Verse 22. Atharva Vangirasammase Sumantur Daruno Munihi Itihasa Purananam Pitame Maharshanam Na.
Translation by Prabhupada. The Samantu Muni Angera, who was very devotedly engaged, was interested with the Atharva Veda, and my father, Ramaharsana, was interested with the Puranas and historical records.
Verse 23. Ta etariषयो vedam swam swam vyasanna anekadha shishyaiः parisishyaitastishyai vedaste sakhino bhavan.
All these learned scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas into their many disciples, grand disciples and great disciples, and those the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being.
Verse 24. Ta eva veda durmedhairya धार्यन्ते पुरुषैर्यथा एवं चकार भगवान् व्यासः कृपणवत्सलः.
Those the great sages, Vyasadeva, who is very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men.
Verse 25. Stri Shudra Dvijbandhunam Traina Shruti Gochara Karma Shreyasi Mudhanam Shreya Evam Bhavediha Iti Bharat Makyanam Kripaya Munina Kritam.
Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable man to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, labors and frames of the thrice-born tribal.
Verse 26. Evam pravrittasya sada bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha sarvatma kenapi yada natushyatra dradayam tataha.
Translation by Sri Prabhupada. O thrice-born Brahmanas, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people.
Okay. Verse 27. Nati prasida dradayaha sarasvatyastataistuchucho vitarkayan viviktastha idam chovacha dharmaved.
Thus the sage, being dissatisfied at heart, at once began to reflect, because he knew the essence of religion, and he said within himself.
Verse 28-29. Dhrutvrtena hi maya chandansi guruvugnaya manita nirvyalikena grahitam chanushasanam bharatavyapedeshena yamnya yarthasya pradata दृश्यते यत्र धर्मादि प्रदीप्यप्युत.
Sorry, Mataji, you're on mute.
Thank you. I have under strict disciplinary vows, unpeasantly worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual masters, at the altar of sacrifice, I have also abided by the ruling and have shown the import of disciplined succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Sudras, and others, friends of the twice born, can see the path of religion.
Verse 30. Tathapi badmedahiyo yatma chaivatmana vibhuhu asampanna iva bhati brahma varchasya sattamaha.
I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas.
Verse 31. Kim va bhagavata dharma na prayena nirupitaha priyaha param hansanam ta evya yachuta priyaha.
This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. Infallible Lord, yeah.
Verse 32. Tasyaivam khilmatmanam manyamanasya khidyataha krishnasya narado bhagyad ashramam pragudayutam.
As mentioned before, Narada reached the cottage of a Krishna, Dvaipyana Vyasa, on the banks of the Saraswati, just as Vyasadeva was regretting his defects.
Verse 33. Tam bhijnaya sahasa pratyuthaya gatam munihi pujayamasa vidhivan naradam surpujitam.
At the auspicious arrival of Sri Narada, Sri Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him a veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare. Sorry if I did any mistake, please forgive me. All my obituary sisters, all the devotees, Hare.
Me too.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, over to you now.
Okay, will you be sharing that verse or do I share it on my screen?
I can share it again, 1 second.
So Mataji, maybe you can guide me in terms of what are the next steps. So are we chanting Om Namo Bhagavate now?
Yes, Prabhuji, we can do the prayers and then you can discuss the verse with us.
Okay. So Hare Krishna everyone, I'm Narottam Anand. I've been given this opportunity to speak on this verse today. I hope you get some realization from this. I'm seeking your blessings, all the devotees here, so that I can speak something meaningful for your benefit and my benefit. We'll chant the Om Namo Bhagavate and the prayers. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Savadutam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna everyone. Do we read the verse again? Jyoti Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. The English or the start with Sanskrit?
Yes, so you read the Sanskrit and the translation, and if you like, you can ask for volunteer to read the purport.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Tasyaivam khilam atmanam manya manasya khidyataha krishnasya narado abhyagat ashramam prag udharatam. As mentioned before, Narad reached the cottage of Krishna Dvaipayan Vyas on the banks of Saraswati, just as Vyasdev was regretting his defects. Does anybody wants to read the purport, please?
I can read the purport.
Thanks, Ajay Guru. Sorry, who's reading it?
I'll read, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
The vacuum felt by Vyasadeva was not due to his lack of knowledge. Bhagavad Dharma is purely devotional service of the Lord, to which the monist has no access. The monist is not counted amongst the Paramahansas, the most perfect of the renounced order of life. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of narrations of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Although Vyasadeva was an empowered divinity, he still felt dissatisfaction because in none of his works were the transcendental activities of the Lord properly explained. The inspiration was infused by Sri Krishna directly in the heart of Vyasadeva, and thus he felt the vacuum as explained above. It is definitely expressed herewith that without the transcendental loving service of the Lord, everything is void. But in the transcendental service of the Lord, everything is tangible without any separate attempt at fruitive work or empiric philosophical speculation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ajay Prabhu. Thank you. So in this verse, Vyasdev is experiencing, as we read today, Narad has reached the cottage and on the banks of Saraswati, just as Vyasdev is regretting his defect. What was the defect? We have heard in the previous verses that he was feeling that all the scriptures he has written, and those are by no means very ordinary. Okay, these are extraordinary. Even after 5,000 years, even more, people are still following it. And this knowledge, which is there in the Vedas and so many other scriptures that Vyasadeva written, is a treasure house in terms of how to conduct in this world. But still, the only thing missing was the emphasis on devotional service. Because when we have come into this material world, we have come here to enjoy separately from Krishna. And Krishna has facilitated. In the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, there is an elaborate description about this material universe. Okay, and but the objective is not to teach us the science or the details of how the universe is created. The objective is to show that how far Krishna has gone to create such an intricate world, in which even a cell of a body is like a city operating perfectly fine. So that is the intricacy that Krishna has used to create this material universe. For what? So that we can enjoy in this material world separate from him. So just imagine if we were to enjoy with Krishna, how much will be that enjoyment, how much Krishna really wants us to be his devotee. So for those souls who have come into this material world, Krishna has created such a wonderful place for one to enjoy. And the objective is, like we may hear in Krishna consciousness, that this world is miserable, is suffering, but that is not the purpose of this material world. Okay, that is a feature of this material world. So we experience the purpose is just like in the same verse, Krishna says that those who come to me, this world is a place full of dukhalayam and ashashvatam. Dukhalayam is full of misery and everything is temporary. But what is the purpose? The purpose is that we come back to Krishna. We've somehow come into this material world. Now we should come back to Krishna so that we can have loving relationship with Krishna and enjoy with him. So just like in hospital, if I have to give an analogy, the patients who are living in the hospital, they are suffering. But the purpose of the hospital is not to give suffering to the patients over there. It's naturally the feature. People are suffering, that's why they come for the treatment. So the objective, the purpose of the hospital is for us to get treated and we can live happily and get out of the hospital. So similarly, Krishna has created this material world, and he has given us, instead of leaving us in the dark in terms of how do we conduct ourselves, he has given this Shastras, and which is nicely written by Srila Vyasadeva 5,000 years ago. He wrote it down, and he divided the Vedas into 4 Vedas, and he's given such a beautiful scriptures, and the objective is that we enjoy a little bit and then come to Krishna consciousness gradually, because the nature of the soul, because we're coming from Krishna is independent, supremely independent. We are part and parcel of Krishna. We are very tiny. So in terms of quality, we are of Krishna's quality, godly, as Prabhupada says. But in terms of quantity, there is no difference. We are very tiny, infinitesimal. But the nature is there to be independent and to enjoy this world, because it's coming from Krishna. And so in order to regulate our lives and gradually bring us to Krishna consciousness, this Vedas and the different scriptures are written, so that we can gradually elevate ourselves. There is no direct emphasis on Krishna devotional service, because that is not what we have come. We want to enjoy separately from Krishna. So if you get that we have to be servant of Krishna, the whole the enjoyment propensity will get disturbed. So Krishna has so kindly given us the opportunity that we gradually elevate ourselves and come to, and that was the purpose of writing all the scriptures. But then by the influence of Krishna, he is making him, having given all the scriptures, now Krishna wants to give the real thing, which is devotional service, as Prabhupada says, the Bhagavad Dharma, which is to give us pure devotional service. That is the purpose, that is the next objective that Krishna has, and he wants to give the Srimad Bhagavatam. He wants Vyasadeva to write. He is making him feel that that there is something lacking, there is something pinprick he has. So so that's why Vyasadeva is feeling like that. And the question is that he's feeling the vacuum due to his lack of knowledge. Okay. But in reality, what Prabhupada is saying is that the vacuum felt by Vyasadeva was not due to his lack of knowledge. Okay, it was not that he had no knowledge and that's why he's like confused what to do and why have I done, or he doesn't have the knowledge. He has full knowledge of devotional service, but he was following Krishna's order, and that's how he wrote all the scriptures. And then Prabhupada is comparing that. He's bringing the point of that the monists cannot access this knowledge. Okay, and the reason the monists cannot access is because they do not practice devotional service. The key thing about practicing devotional service is the realization a devotee feels. Just knowledge doesn't bring the transformation. The real transformation comes when we have realized knowledge. And that's the path of devotional service. It gives us realized knowledge, where the monist or the Mayavadis, they are just focused on just getting knowledge. Okay, gyan. And with that gyan, they want to negate, which is, and they want to use that knowledge to negate Maya against Brahman. So that's what they keep doing. And the main purport of this verse is about the realization of Vyasadeva. So we can also think about in our life, how can we have realization, right? The first question is, what does realization mean? Can anybody explain what does one thing is realization mean? Anybody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Can I try, please?
Yes, please. Krupa Mataji, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Realization means, in my opinion, it means experience. Like reading is one thing, and you have imbibed the whatever you have read, and you have applied it, and you have experienced the thing. Then it is realized knowledge. Just by reading and understanding, it's not there. You have to experience.
Yes. So
Okay.
thank you so much. That's perfect explanation. So
Thank
if you
you.
look at this world, thank you, Madhuri. So if you look at this world, so there are two things, right? One is the observation that we do about what is happening in the world. Okay, we see people suffering, we see people enjoying. Okay, and we do an observation and we get an understanding of what's happening in the world. So that's the pratyaksha praman that we have. The second type of knowledge that we have is about hearing from the Shastra. So the Shastra is telling us that this world it gives a description of this world and the purpose of this world. Okay, and we see that these two don't match most of the time in our life, right? We see people who are enjoying, okay, maybe for a certain period of time, and we think that the Shastra says that this is a place of misery and suffering, and so how is this possible? Then in our experience also, we find that sometimes we are enjoying, and our karmas are good, our time is good, we enjoy, and then and sometimes we suffer. So the real thing is that when you see the world from the eyes of the Shastra, okay, we hear what is written, that this place is temporary. We have to die one day and we have to go back to Godhead, or we have to come back again and again in this material world. We read this knowledge, but once we develop that once we analyze what's happening in the world, okay, through the eyes of the scriptures and use inference. So inference could be speculation, and it could be wild speculation, like materialistic, or it could be an educated guess or an inference that we make. So that is what is required, that when we see the events of the world, how do we use and try to see from the perspective of what the Shastra has given, what the sages have given us. If we try to see it from that perspective, we will get the realization. Because if we just go by what we see in the world and use our common sense, I mean, just do observation, then we can come to a wrong conclusion. Like one example, one devotee was giving, he was a brahmachari, and he was invited to a big wealthy family in India, and he had a whole entourage of cars, and he was super rich. And then after the talk, he started to open up, this gentleman, and he started saying, because generally people want to give up their best side to the world, right? You always want to present that you in yourself in a very good light. So a lot of things are hidden behind. And then slowly, when he started opening up, he started telling exactly what is happening in his life, in terms of he's got separated from his wife, his daughter has ran away with somebody and she's not even called him back, and so many things he was going into details and explaining. And this devotee was thinking, this brahmachari, that, oh my God, if somebody just sees from the outside, then they will think that I want a life like this man, because he's got everything. He's got his big wealth and he's enjoying his life. But the inside is that he is really miserable and suffering. And the nature of the mind is that it always wants to compare with something better. Okay, it will never compare. Our nature is that we always, the mind's nature is that always want to compare something who's done better than us, and then makes us feel miserable, because that's how the mind makes us feel. So there are two things. One is the intelligence, and the second is the mind. So when we could be reading the scriptures, and intellectually we may say that, oh, this, because when in Krishna consciousness everything is explained very logically, scientifically. So at an intelligence level, we could accept all of that which is written. Oh yeah, it makes sense. But deep inside, at the level of the mind, okay, which is related to the emotions, we may not be fully convinced. Okay, secretly, we will always say that this is what the scripture says, right? But deep inside, our propensity to enjoy is so strong that even though we have heard it, we believe the intelligence, from intelligence perspective, it makes sense, it's logical, but still we want to enjoy it, because the mind will say that, oh, let me try one more time. Maybe this person doesn't know how to live. Like in that example, that devotee, that rich man, we may think that, oh, he doesn't know how to live, but if I get the money, I think I know how to enjoy. Okay? So that's how the mind will trick us, because the mind just wants to enjoy and doesn't want to follow any rules and regulations. So, but if you keep the intelligence in the focus, okay, the question is that how do we bring that intelligence in the forefront, so that when we see things or we observe what is happening in the world, we see it from the perspective of the Shastra, and then we can use inferences or guesses, or educated guesses, that actually this person, there's nothing really permanent here. Everything is temporary, and things eventually give us suffering. We get happiness and we get suffering, but that's the objective, is actually to go back to Krishna, to develop a loving relationship with him and his devotees, and go back to Krishna. So if we bring that consciousness of the Shastra into whatever we observe, then we can develop that realization of whatever we experience in this world. There is a concept of dormant vocabulary and active vocabulary. So there may be words which you may be knowing, but you don't use it frequently, and it doesn't and you don't use it, but when you hear somebody else using it, you think, oh, that's a right word, I could have used it in different ways. And the active vocabulary is something you use on a daily basis, which is very much you're accustomed to. So we can take that example to try to see everything from the lens of Krishna consciousness and the Shastra. And if we do that and we apply that in our life, then we will start getting realization. If we do the other way, where we just see, observe, and don't bring the Shastra perspective in whatever we see, and don't derive good inferences, then we will be lost. Then we'll be like just like anybody else, and we'll not develop realization. So what we can learn from this is that we read it, we meditate on whatever we read, and see and try to see whatever is happening from the point of whatever we have learned, whatever Shastra we've learned, whatever we have heard, bring that, and then you can experience, and then we can have more realizations, because that will reconfirm whatever we have learned so far. Otherwise, it will be all theoretical if you don't apply the learnings and try to infer whatever we're observing in this world. So so that's how we can develop our realization ourselves. So any questions, or maybe somebody can talk about realizations they've had, okay, by applying Shastra into their day-to-day observance. Does anybody wants to volunteer to share with us, please? Okay, I'm sure some of you have had the realization.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, ma'am.
A long time ago in Bhagavatam class, Prabhuji was giving a class, and he was saying that, when we are enjoying, and obviously some people enjoy in the world, and when they hear that, oh, Krishna consciousness, you're talking about suffering and misery and death, it's so bad. My life is good, I'm enjoying, you also enjoy, like that. So he's gave the example of, if you don't believe that life is about miseries, or miseries come in life, then you just visit the prison or visit the hospital. If you think life is good and you can enjoy here permanently, so just go and visit the hospital and go and visit the prison and see there. So yeah, when we are young and we don't know anything about the Shastras, or we haven't heard, so it's all rosy and beautiful, but it is, when you really see, when I was a student, I was just doing my stuff, I was studying. So when I started working as a teacher, then I saw so many children suffering from so many ailments of the mind, and they are suffering, as well as they are from difficult socioeconomic conditions. So I saw so many problems, and then I was like shocked to to acknowledge, like, oh my God, this exists in so many social problems and so many mental problems, physical problems. So that kind of things. And then Prabhuji's words hit me that yes, where sometimes we think everything is rosy. Why are they talking about misery? But when you see it yourself, then you realize that yes, it is true.
Wonderful, Mataji. Thank you. So I think
Thank
we can sometimes force ourselves to go to places where it gives us strong realization that how this world is. Like there is a saying, right? Smashan Vairagya, where in the cremation ground we get good realization about the temporary and the suffering of this world, and we can realize that. Then we can see that actually what the Shastra says is absolutely true, because you can see it in front of your eyes and you can relate to that Shastra. And second point, Mataji, you said about seeing how others are suffering. So this point I was making earlier, that the mind always compares with something better. Okay, so somebody, like one example is there in one devotee was saying that there was one very good student in his class, and he did not pay much attention. He didn't study well, although he was a good student. And he was thinking that he will come not even top 10, he will be low below. And then when the results came, he came second in the class, and he was very jubilant and he was so happy. This is amazing. And then second thing he learned is that the person who came first was his big rival, and he just hated that. Their whole enjoyment, he was top of the world, he went down completely on it immediately because of comparison, that he was thinking this person, anybody can come first, but not this person, because he was envious of him. So the nature of the mind is to compare with something better and makes us and beat us down, that, oh, you don't have it. Oh, so in psychology, there is a individual counseling and psychotherapy, and there is a group session. So what the psychologists have learned is that the group sessions are more effective, because the nature of the mind is feel that, oh, I am so miserable, my problems are so unique that nobody has such a kind of a problem. But when they come in the group session and hear other people suffering and the pain they are going through, they wouldn't want to swap their suffering with somebody else, because they realize that maybe they're in a better position. So that's another way we can deal, that we can, as Mataji experience, that we can, if you have to compare, then compare ourselves with somebody, some people who are more difficult position than ours, not to feel ourselves better, but to feel that actually my condition could have been worse. I think what I have is still better. Let me keep that, and let me keep Krishna consciousness in the forefront and lead my life, because there is no end to how much better we can do in this material world. And it's like the nature of this mind is that, and this material world is that, happiness seems to be just around the corner. If I just do this one thing, which could be, if I get this job, or I get a promotion, or I get this house, my life will be better. But the thing about this, we may have experienced ourselves, whatever we have desired, even if we got it, we are still not happy. There is something more. Like I can tell you in my example, we were trying for a child for a very long time. And then I would hear couples who have children, they complaining about, oh, the child, he's so naughty, he's giving so much difficulty, this problem, that problem. And I would think that, and I would say that, oh, they're not so grateful. They've got a child, they're so fortunate. But then when we got a child, I'm repeating the same thing that others were saying. Because once you think that if I get this, for in our case, if you get the child, everything will be happy, okay? Because we tried for so long. So, but the reality is something else. The happiness is always escaping, is always finding what is the next thing I can do that will make us happy. And that never ends till the end of the life, and even next life and forever. So that's the nature of the mind. And that is why we need to strengthen our intelligence and keep whatever we heard in the forefront of our consciousness, so that we don't see the world how a typical materialist or ignorant person will see. Just like the social media, right, is a great example, where Instagram, Facebook, everybody wants to show that they're happy. Everybody's taking their best pictures and uploading, and everybody looks so happy. But all the research and surveys shows that people are actually becoming more miserable being on Instagram or Facebook. And so that's the reality. So we can use Shastric knowledge to see the world from the and infer, which is in line with what Shastra has explained us, because that's the real reality. So realization means that there is a reality, okay, and Krishna has given us the knowledge of the reality, and then we accepting that reality, that is realization, right? So our acceptance of that reality, because knowledge means you hear something, okay, you know it, okay, but you don't accept it. But realization comes when we see things from the perspective of, we harmonize whatever we see with the Shastra and use inference to understand what we are saying from the Shastra. And that's how we develop the realization, because then we accept the reality of this material world or whatever we see from the Shastric perspective. So I'll end here. If there are any questions or any comments or any corrections anybody wants to, please add. So we'll open it up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, my question is that to have a realization from the Shastras, only two things can make it happen. Either to have a sound knowledge of the Shastras or to have a close association of the devotees who know the Shastras. Is that true conception?
Yeah, Mataji, but we need not have all the knowledge. We may have some knowledge now, and that is good enough. That is good enough. And then you can add more knowledge and you can associate more with devotees. So we need not have all the knowledge. We can have some knowledge, and that is good enough. That is good enough for us to go back to Godhead. But then the main thing is, knowledge is one, then realization. How do I use that knowledge? That will give us realization, that will give us conviction. Otherwise, we may see that I am doing this Krishna consciousness, okay, and my neighbor is materialist, but he looks very happy, and I have so much difficulty. So we may misunderstand, and because people go through phases in their life when they experience good karma and they are look very happy and everything is going well, and then the time changes, and we may just see that good part and start comparing and feel miserable ourselves about what we are. So the key thing is to how do we use the Shastric knowledge, whatever we have learned, and use that to see the world. From a Krishna conscious perspective.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Does everybody agree this realization point? The knowledge is one, and the realization is another. And is that something you see is realistic, that you can try to follow? It's not easy, because the mind can change everything, right? The mind will secretly don't want to accept. Externally, the intelligence will say this is absolutely right because this is perfect understanding. But the mind will say that maybe I'm an exception. I can escape this and I can really enjoy this world. Or I want to do this, but I don't want to give up certain things. So it will try to convince us. But we can use again the knowledge we have learned to apply and to see the world from that perspective.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Madhuri.
Yes. I had in one of the sessions, I sort of got the sort of idea that at times intelligence also fails us. So
how is that, Madhaji? How does the intelligence fails us? You mean
I don't remember the example, but they said that you cannot trust your intelligence all the time, because some people are very clever but they use their intelligence in the wrong way.
Yes. Yeah, that is why if we have an association of devotees and hear the Shastra, that is how we strengthen the intelligence. The material intelligence will, with that scientific knowledge, you can create a bomb and destroy everybody. Or you can use that intelligence to understand Krishna. So intelligence is there. Intelligence by itself is not good or bad. How you use that intelligence will make it good or bad.
Yeah, makes sense. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Disha Mataji wanted to raise a hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what Mataji asked, that intelligence is, I think, like knowledge that we have. But the power of intelligence, that is the intellect, which is the power to discriminate about what is right, what is wrong. That actually is the intellect which tells us And that I think comes with meditation, with devotion, with bhakti. It comes in us. This is what I feel. And the other thing, what you said about the desire, so I have read somewhere that, ki desire, there is a subtle difference between desire to become happy and desire out of happiness. So how is your desire? So based on that, so it teaches a lot when you read this verse, read this sentence, that desire to become happy and desire out of happiness, there is a difference. So we always chase the happiness, desire to become happy, and we keep chasing that. So it should be actually desire out of happiness, which will make us good in whatever we are doing, is what I understand. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but we cannot, the problem with this is, Mataji, that we cannot take the desire out of ourselves. Even the desire to be out of happiness is also a desire.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So the desire, we cannot do it because the problem that we have is we are misdirecting our desire. Instead of desiring for Krishna, we're desiring for this material world. That's why we're suffering. The purpose of desire is to serve Krishna. So the
Yeah.
gopis are desiring that how do we make Krishna happy? How
Yeah.
can we make Krishna eat butter? I'm doing
Yeah.
this work, and she has a desire that Krishna eats my butter. She has a
Yeah.
desire that I want to marry Krishna. So that
Yeah.
is the right desire. And we have a desire that we want to eat, but at the same time, we want to offer it to Krishna. So that
Yeah.
is how we're changing our desire to
Yeah.
enjoying ourselves. Instead of enjoying ourselves, we want to give pleasure to Krishna. And in giving pleasure to Krishna, we get happiness. So the desire has to be directed towards Krishna, not away from Krishna. And desire can
Yes.
never go away. Nobody can take away desire. Nobody has done that. And the
Yeah, because we are householders and we are living in this world of material, that is Maya. So yes.
So we need to purify our desire. We cannot get rid of desire. Nobody has done.
Yeah, that's what. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
And thank you for a nice class. Prabhu, just to offer up the Sastric definition of realization is essentially to understand one's relationship perfectly with Krishna. And the realization has to effectively be understood with the essence of the subject properly before presenting it to others. That's effectively the Sastric definition of realization.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So that's realization, as Prabhuji has read it. Any other questions? So somebody has raised his hand. I can't see. Is that you, Shailesh, Prabhuji? Okay.
Yes, sorry, I had it earlier. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Jyoti Mataji, maybe there are no other questions. Maybe we can close the session then.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you everyone. And sorry if I have offended anyone or said anything wrong. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
It was a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Wonderful class, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for nice class.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for nice class.